Hello, everybody. Welcome to podcast episode number 41 of the Make Music Income podcast. I said podcast twice there. I don't know. Should I restart that?
It's a lot of podcasts.
I'm just going to go with it.
Yeah.
In this episode, we are going to discuss how composing music for libraries and the sync licensing market is kind of a unique experience when it comes to arrangement and structure. At least it is often for me. And I want to discuss how I approach it, how I hear others approach it, and how I think that you can, in a lot of cases, you can optimize your tracks to do well on music libraries. And I do have some important songwriting tips to take into account when you're composing licensing music in general. So that's what we're going to dig into today. Before we do, as always, we're going to do a little weekly recap. Eric, I guess it's been 2 weeks since we last chatted. So what's been going on, man?
Well, a hurricane, not much. Hurricane just barreled through here over the past 24, 48 hours.
Yeah.
Wasn't much by the time it got to us here or in Orlando. So we lost just a screen outside and a couple branches off some trees. So I don't know. I know a lot of people are without power, a lot of people without internet around town and throughout Florida. Mm-hmm. And towards the coast, I'm sure it's worse. Flooding was very, very bad from what I understand. So I haven't really caught up with all of that just because I've been trying to get some things done this morning. I'm off work these 2 days because of the hurricane. And so I've been trying to get some work done, but it's difficult.
Yeah.
When you're worried about battening down all the hatches and worrying about the windows blowing in and all that kind of stuff. So, but that being said, I actually did an interview yesterday before the hurricane got here or as it was coming in here, on Zoom with a guy named Garrett Breeze who has a podcast called Selling Sheet Music. And so
cool.
After I found that, I've been wanting to, since I've been talking about that recently, I wanted to talk with him. And so we did a podcast interview. So that'll be coming up probably on Monday on my channel to fill up my Monday slot, since this podcast will be playing on Monday. So we will flip-flop our broadcasts and premiere them to our friends. But talking about really how to triple dip a little bit, making a song specifically for sheet music that can also be sold on libraries and that can also be sold on Spotify and things like that.
That's cool.
And so getting into that checklist idea, I'll be also offering the checklist that we kind of talked about a few weeks back on that interview for free. People can start downloading that checklist. So that's going to be happening. I also have a video coming out tomorrow that will, by time people hear this, it'll already be out on my channel, called Why I'm Not Quitting Licensing or Anything. And that will be an interesting conversation, kind of touching on some things. I have started my third taxi video that is going to probably wrap my taxi experience.
Yeah.
And tell everybody about what I think is going to happen. And I still have about a month before that officially ends or more.
Yeah, same here. I think. Yeah, mine is about to expire. They've already started sending the emails trying to get me to sign
the kit with the coupons and the. I took pictures of all the. I mean, there's 2 pages full of testimonials on why you shouldn't quit taxi. Yeah. But anyway, that being said, I'm still uploading stuff. I've got something to upload tomorrow. I've got several more that are coming out. A lot of the things that have come out recently don't apply to me. They just don't apply at all to me personally. And I'm, and a lot of stuff is vocal. And so I just don't have time to make and cut vocals and mix it in time for the briefs. But I do have a lot of things that I do have going on, and I will be putting up there. So still cranking on it until, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, get your money's worth. That's the right way to do it.
So that and Hello Composers has kind of started back up in a very different way than I thought it was going to start up.
Yeah.
I tried the live thing, and for whatever reason, the live broadcast didn't work. And then I tried to shoot a whole full video, maybe twice. I kept running into technical problems, and it was like God was saying, no thanks.
It's like the
but
YouTube
finally,
algorithm gods are saying like, no, just talk
I
about
would.
music income.
So I was listening to this podcast with Clint Music, and he was interviewing a girl named Sides or Seeds. I think it's Seeds.
Okay.
And she does Logic, a lot of Logic shorts talking about Logic tips and things like that. And she said, she just didn't have time to do these as full videos, and she started doing them as shorts because they were short little lessons. And I thought, that might be an easier way to teach some of this long-winded stuff that I want to get out. And so I've started doing that.
Cool.
And the channel started growing a little bit. And so we'll see. I might end up doing like a live a week. So I'll have the short approach and the long approach, and maybe something I call office hours, where we could, people can come in and ask questions about composing. I can talk about those videos a little bit longer.
Cool.
We'll see how that works.
That's a good idea.
On the composing side, I've had more songs approved by Crucial, including several covers, and so my first covers were approved by Crucial, and I've uploaded a lot more to stock, including a lot of Latin jazz stuff that I have of my own, and so that's all going up to all the major three, which are for me are Motion Array and Pond 5 and Audio Jungle, because those are the ones that make the most income. And then I'm working a lot of songs. I've got more orchestra and electronic songs I call orchestronic, and I signed a bunch of those last time to an exclusive library, and then a bunch I have just on stock, and they do some things. I have new Christmas music I'm working on, new Halloween music I'm working on, and tons of just little pieces of things that I've just little what I call starts. You start on something and you go for 15-20 minutes, half hour, and you're like, we'll see, we'll come back to that. And so I've done a lot of those things. So I have a lot to kind of get to, just trying to make time to get to it. I've also decided to go ahead and start just distributing some of these albums. To heck with the curated playlist route. Because I have so much to get out. It's like by the time I get each of these out as singles, I'll have a whole nother album of other stuff to put out. I just have too much material to do it song by song. So I'm going to go ahead and put out the entire orchestronic album for Master Score, and then more Christmas music. I've got a piano Christmas music. I have a piano hymns album, and I have a Hallowmas album. All of that's going to be going out on Spotify as albums/EPs. So trying to distribute all those. I've got a Christmas holiday record I'm working on. That is going to be done. I'm going to release a song every Friday, I think is the goal with that. And then more
Great.
Covers. Now that the door is starting to open in places for covers, and from a non-exclusive standpoint.
Yeah.
Like Crucial, but I have another guy who comes to me for covers and asks if I have a cover of this or cover of that. So why not do covers and have some covers ready, and especially if I can pitch them, start finding places to pitch them to.
It's pretty cool.
And then this week we started Music Theory right before the hurricane hit. But in Music Theory we talk about a lot of things, and I think that's where we're going to go today. So I will just hold on that and say that's my update for now. How about you?
Well, that's a great problem to have, by the way, too much music. I wish I had too much music. I have a lot. I've been crazy, busy these last couple weeks since I last talked to you. Probably the most productive month of my life this last September. Wow. To be honest. I've just been getting down to business. I don't know what it is. I think it's the weather. As soon as the sun goes away and the clouds start showing up, I love it, and I'm in my element. So, I've written a lot of music. I'm just finishing up a new course for the Academy. It's a holiday course. It's a mixture of holiday and Christmas composing. Yeah, it's funny. I because I make a fair bit of content about Artlist. As you know, I just put out this video about Artlist yesterday, and a lot of people reach out to me and ask me to review the submission packages that they send Artlist. I mean, a lot of people unfortunately get turned down. That's the way it goes. And I've got a bit of consulting, one-on-one consulting work coming up.
Yeah, I imagine so. That's one of the questions I'm getting over and over on that is Artlist. What should I do with this catalog? Should I just throw it all at Artlist? We could probably do a whole. You're doing a lot of Artlist thing. I didn't watch your Artlist thing yet the other night. I saw some of it, but a lot of people are asking me: is it non-exclusive? Is
Totally.
it should I send them my whole catalog? All this kind of stuff. So.
Yeah,
I
there's a lot of questions floating around about it, and a lot of people reach out to me over Instagram, over email, and I figured it would just be, I might as well make some YouTube content that addresses some of the questions that I hear a lot. But a lot of people reach out to me, and they say, hey, like I got turned down, and I'm not sure what's going on with my music. Like I would love some, objective thoughts on it, and I usually in the last 6 months when that's happened, I've generally kind of directed people to just join the academy because I've been so busy, and I say, hey, just join the academy and get some feedback from the members there. And I still think that that's a great option. I also offer that, service as a one-on-one feedback, written feedback for your work, 1 track a month kind of thing. But sometimes people are, not everyone is into the monthly subscription thing for one. Some people are just really so busy and they would rather just kind of pay for a one-on-one session and just be able to pick my brain in person, which I totally understand. And for that reason alone, I'm opening up myself to doing these one-on-one Zoom things through the academy. It's going to be a new service that I offer in the academy. I haven't told the members about it yet. If they're listening, then now you know. I was going to make the announcement on October 1st. But I'm going to be opening up one-on-one consulting sessions as well as mixing sessions. So if you want, I can film or I can mix your track. You just send me the stems, and I'll film myself doing it and talk my through the process, and I'll just kind of send you the video
live, or you will just do it first. You'll do it and then send it to me.
I would do it first, and then I would make a video of exactly what my thoughts were and edit it a little bit so that it's watchable. So that's a new service I'm going to be offering come October. But anyway, I have a few Zooms coming up for. Which I'm excited for. I love connecting with people and just meeting people from all around the world. It's really fun for me. Yeah, it's always been a time issue for me. It's always just been something that I haven't been able to manage properly.
I try to do that. I've started re-offering that. I was offering it when I first started.
Yeah, right.
And then I kind of paused because it was taking up too much time and I was wanting to do it more on a monthly basis, but not many people want to do it on a monthly basis. Usually they just want to talk to somebody once and then get off.
That's it.
And so I started half an hour and hour consults again at a kind of a lower price one-offs. And I have very limited time to do this. So I put up my calendar site and say, hey, if you can find a spot, find it. And whatever works for you, we'll make it work. And so I've started doing that a little bit too. So
it's cool.
It's really interesting.
I need to get that calendar app. That's something I need to
Calendly is free.
Calendly,
so
okay.
You should get it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm having a great month. I passed I passed 4,000 downloads on Motion Array this month, which is by far the most ever. I'm only 700 downloads away from the coveted level 7, which I don't think is even possible to get to.
You have one day.
Yeah, so I got to get 700 downloads in a day. So that's going well.
Everybody go down. Well, it's too late now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, go download my track.
Download something.
So I'll do maybe a follow-up video about that because that'll probably end up being a record-breaking
Will this be your
payout.
biggest month ever?
Oh yeah. Wow. By a long shot.
And you've had big months.
I've had big months, and this is going to be a big one.
That is crazy.
So maybe do a video about that because there's a few
this
reasons why that happened.
This will probably be my second worst of the year.
Really, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It started out okay, but then it kind of.
The challenge this month in the academy is scoring some 80s footage, and I just made a video the other day for the members about some amazing free synths that you can download which are great for composing synthwave and for that vintage 80s kind of sound. And I've had a few submissions sent to me so far, and they're just so good. I can't wait to do the live stream showcase.
Yeah,
that's going to be really, really fun. There's going to be some prizes for the winner there too. And I got a vocal session booked for tomorrow with my friend Missy. She's helping me throw down some vocals for a bunch of tracks that I'm working on for Artlist. Like you, I also have a bunch of starters. So I got to finish up a lot of ideas that need to be completed, but I've got a lot of things that I've kind of like planted the seed, which is cool. Let's get into today's topic. So I'll just start this off by saying I actually had a great. I did an interview with Dave Kropp for his podcast a couple weeks ago.
Cool.
I think he's airing that in. I think it's coming out in later in the year. I can't remember exactly, but
yeah, he has a very
he's got a
extended schedule. It took mine a long time to come out.
Yeah. So he interviewed me the other day, and the first question that he asked me was, and it really gave me a lot to think about, was what makes for an ideal stock track. I mean, essentially what we did was we talked about like the royalty-free music marketplace and stock music. Mm-hmm. He said, what makes for an ideal stock track? And it was actually something that's kind of hard to define. And I said something along the lines of, I think that, at least for me, what works well is like explosive energy, powerful dynamics, music that works well for edit points for video editors. I think that's kind of generally what has worked well for me. It gave me a lot to think about in terms of like the way that I compose music for these libraries, as opposed to like how I would approach it if I was writing music for my band or writing music for like my artist profile, right?
Right.
So let's talk about song structure. I think that's the big one that people maybe have a lot of trouble with. I think it's an interesting discussion, and it's also kind of an observation about where music is at in terms of popular culture too, like today, as opposed to where it was in like the 60s and 70s, but also in terms of just like what's working in the licensing space. And I do think it is somewhat genre dependent. So it is difficult to make generalizations, but it's funny because like if you like, especially I feel like the 70s was like a really golden time for like arrangements, like so many amazing.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Yeah. Like amazing bridges and B
double
sections
bridges.
and totally double. Yeah, just like such powerful and interesting songwriting going on. And if you turn on the radio today and you listen to the top 40, it's nothing like it once was. It is very often it's like. I mean, again, I'm making generalizations here, but it's very loop based, and it's very simple. Like at least pop music today, I think, is very stripped back, and it's very it's simplified. I mean, the bridge is pretty much dead. You never hear a bridge in a track these days. You hear breakdowns and build ups, but like
and we are really generalizing because
big time.
I think there are several different areas. When you started out this podcast, you said sync licensing, and I mean, to some extent, even a stock music track could be used for sync, but just in a YouTube sense, for a YouTube video. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so when we say sync licensing, we mean sync to anything. Sync
anything.
To
yes, exactly.
A movie, a TV show, a video game, a YouTube channel, whatever. Yeah. It could be synced for a behind of a commercial, anything, it could be used for. And every one of those people is going to want something different.
Totally.
But will they want a full bridge? I don't know. It depends on how good the bridge is, and if it's a Lifetime movie in the middle of the thing, and the bridge is where the hook is that they want for whatever reason. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It might work, but
yeah. Well, it's again, like I want to make it clear that we are generalizing, because it's like, and I listen, like, I've mentioned to you this so many times. I listen to a lot of music that's on Motion Array and Artlist just to see what's going on and see what's doing well, because it's fascinating to me. Two great examples of like songwriters who, I think really get into the weeds with like arrangement and having like bridges, interesting B sections, that kind of thing. Like one for sure is Lester, who we've talked plenty about on this podcast, and some of his, really high performing tracks on Motion Array, like he's got like crazy arrangements. They're not like simple arrangements. Like they're quite creative. Mojo is another guy who like really gets into like interesting arrangements and stuff. So it's not like you can't get into those kinds of creative song arranging ideas and do well on royalty-free libraries. You certainly can. A lot of my that being said, like a lot of my tracks, especially the ones that have been bestsellers, they're essentially they're simple ideas presented in an 8-bar loop, and the entire track is simply a dance around the 8-bar loop idea. It's simply an arrangement that presents this 8-bar loop, and it kind of repeats it across a 1.5 to 2 minute arrangement generally, or track length. What it's doing is essentially kind of periodically removing and then reintroducing elements of the loop throughout the arrangement to keep it interesting, and that's all. That's all it is. Yeah. A really great example of this, and this is a song that I cite a lot as a reference, is "Defunk" by Daft Punk. Because what it is essentially is just like, it's like 7 elements, and all the track is, the entire arrangement, I think it's like a 3.5 minute song, is just occasionally removing some of those elements and then bringing them back. And it's so simple and it's so effective. It really, really does work. This type of approach works really well for like certain genres, like corporate hip hop. Hip hop is a great genre to apply this to.
Even hip hop, not just in corporate, but hip hop in general.
Yes, because it is as a genre. That's that is the essence of the genre in itself. It's like loop based music, EDM. Rock tracks work well for this kind of thing too. But yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. I just think that it is kind of, it's great that it does work though, because I think that people have a really hard time finishing their tracks and finishing their ideas. But I think that as long as you work sort of like one idea that I think that really works for just like getting things done is just like write an 8-bar loop. That's great. And then the arrangement and all of the other decorations can stem from that 8-bar idea. That's it.
When we are just getting into music theory with this third batch of students I've had here this year, and it's the same thing every time. They to get them composing in the beginning, before I even talk about music theory, because we've had to do some assignments where they had to compose, I just say get a drum loop going.
Yes.
And especially once we get into Logic, they encourage using the drummer track because they want you to learn all the pieces of Logic. It's part of teaching Logic. You've got an audio track, you've got a software instrument track, and you've got the drummer track. Those are the 3 kind of tracks that Logic offers. And the drummer track is just kind of a sophisticated, a very original drum beat machine, kind of drum beat maker. And it's a very cool way to, I don't know how much you've played with it, but it is deep, that thing. Cool. And you can really get into it and make beats. So making that beat, I agree with you, is really the easiest and first thing to teach people. And if you are someone listening to this podcast, the other big thing to teach people when they are doing this is to turn on the metronome. You would not believe how many people start out trying to make stuff, and then I say, did you quantize that? And they say, yeah, but it didn't sound right when I did. And I'll go and look and see they started on beat 2 and they just kind of played without the metronome on and thought they were being groovy. And then they realized they can't quantize it and they can't pull it to anything. I've got people writing in 3 bars and 5 bars and 7 bars. And, and so teaching these form things that we want to talk about today and those kind of things I think are important. So I think you need to go back even farther than 8 bars. You need to go back to 4 bars. You need to go back to 4 beats per bar for 4 bars. And you need to start talking about, and we're just talking about a section or the A section, if you will.
Yeah, right.
And, how to get that A section started. And what you said, especially for stock. Now, I don't think for all songwriting this is the way everybody should start. Although, I tell you, every time I start a thing, I usually turn on a loop and I play piano or whatever I'm going to play along with the loop, just so that I may not use that loop, or I may add to that loop or put real drums on or whatever, but that's going to be the start. That's going to be how I get something going that becomes an idea.
Yes.
And so,
I often start with the beat, and I think that's a great place to start, especially because the way, if the beat is like swung, for example, then you kind of got to play into that, right? Yeah. So I think that the rhythmic and the percussive energy of the track really kind of defines the rest of my composition in a lot of cases. So I'll often, if I'm just like looking for inspiration, then I'll start with a beat, and I think that's a really great point.
But if you do, and if you're writing groovy stuff, that is you mean to be locked into the grid, turn on your metronome. That sounds like a funny thing to say to people, but you wouldn't believe how many people, when they first start, and maybe if you're watching or listening to this now, you don't turn on the metronome all the time, but it's lesson one. And I find that, Steve, we can't be too assured that everybody is going to know every single thing when they are listening to this channel.
Yeah.
And one guy just told me the other day in the class, I showed him how to make a simple beat and play with the metronome on, and he was like, "Do you teach this on your channel?" And I'm like, "No, but I'm going to." And I just did a simple beat video on my Hello Composers channel, just a super duper simple, you know, 1 and 3 on the kick and 2 and 4 on the snare, and then a hat, eighth notes, and those kind of things. Everybody is saying, put your music in stock, put your music in sync, do all these things. Few people teach simple things like that. I think Daniel has taught those before. I'm sure you have. So,
well, I don't really. I mean, it's so hard to speak to everyone, right? Because everyone's at the, it's people are starting, people are like advanced, and it's like. So you have to sort of you sort of have to speak to the middle ground somewhere, and I definitely don't do at least my production videos are not for like the absolute beginner. I don't think I think they're I'm assuming, and especially my courses are assuming that whoever's watching has some experience with the DAW, and I move pretty quickly. So it's one of those things where it's like it's unfortunately you can't cater to everyone's skill level. But you're absolutely right. There's so many folks out there who, and like I take it for granted, like just even knowing how to think of a drum beat. That's another thing, because like I play the drums a bit. So I know how a drum kit should sound. I know what's typical and what works for drum kit patterns. And if you didn't play the drums, you might not actually know that. So that's something to think about.
What's really cool in this particular class, I have someone who's not ever done any music before. Actually, in my last class too, both had never once played any kind of beat, played any kind of note, made any kind of music at all. And then I had other people who were sophisticated beat makers. So I had to both teach to the lowest denominator and a mid denominator. And here's what's funny.
That's tough.
Most people are not as advanced as they think they are. Most people are probably a middle ground. They're probably we're probably middle ground compared to other people, and so everybody compares on the spectrum somewhere. But teaching that, and sometimes I learn things just by teaching the basic things. I'm like, I haven't thought about that in a long time, or secrets. That's why we were talking about this other channel where a girl teaches Logic tips. Some of those things you're like, what? Logic does that? I've been using it for 25 years. What?
Totally. There's things that I don't know. Sometimes the members of the Academy point things out to me. I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even realize that.
Students say, hey, do you know this does this? I'm like, nope. Yeah. And so there's the teachers can be taught all the time, and so none of us are in a place where we are the experts on things. We will always have things to learn, and I think anybody who has been doing this a long time is open to that. I think it's the more amateur people who are more like, oh no, I know it all. And if you think you know it all, then you're probably not in the right space. You probably need to get going and learn some new stuff.
Yeah, well, I agree. I think that it's interesting what you're saying, because I think that a lot of people, including myself, at one point were very intimidated by the songwriting process. And like, I think I would listen to what was on libraries, or I just listened to, my favorite artists, and just, felt like it all just feels very complicated and overwhelming, especially coming for someone who doesn't have a lot of experience, like actually as a music player, like you were saying, like someone who has no experience music whatsoever. That's a tough that's a tough person to teach. Now, I think it's like, the nice thing is that for music licensing, I think that music in general, I think that there's something to be said for simplicity, and I think that often the most simple ideas are the most effective. And I think that that is really something that I kind of drive home in what I'm teaching with the courses and with licensing music is like, sometimes just like really simple ideas are beautiful and they work so well. And I think that, that is an encouraging thing for people that are kind of starting out, to know that you don't need like ridiculous amounts of layers. You don't need so many, like a B and a C section necessarily. You don't even need a bridge. It can be actually just be a beautiful idea in an 8-bar loop, and that can be enough to deliver an exceptional track to a library.
Okay,
So,
let me say this. Yes, it can, but it can't be the only thing. And I think sometimes we get caught in this 8-bar loop. In other words, that's the only song we ever write is an 8-bar loop. I see a lot of this when I see a lot of beat makers coming into my class, and they are hip hop enthusiasts, and they are used to hearing music. And what we're talking about when we talk about an 8-bar loop is basically an A section. And sometimes you can get by with making a whole song that's basically an A section that's put together and taken apart and put together and taken apart. And that's kind of what you're talking about a little bit. There's also, but then there are other people who will preach, and as you will hear on most other songs, there's an A section and a B section, an A section and a B section, or sometimes an A section, a B section, an A section. ABA is what we would call that.
Yeah.
But what I've started to come up with a new term called A1, A1, which is basically the rap format, which is it's the same beat, it's the same bass, and it's the same chords, except something unique is happening on that A1 section. It's like a B section, but it's not.
Right.
You don't change chords, you don't change stuff, you just add something very hooky and unique in that spot. A lot of times in rap, the rapper will stop rapping and a vocal singing part will come in for that A1.
Totally.
But it's the same beat and same chords. It's just the same thing. So you can do that too in music for licensing. Why don't you explain that a little bit, if you know what I'm talking about, where you add something in that's unique and it almost sounds like a B section, but you really haven't changed your beat or your bass and stuff like that.
Well, I think what you're saying is that the common denominator is like these like a four chords. Like for example, like a corporate track that I write, like often just uses the same 4 chords throughout the entire 1.5 2 minute arrangement. Now, some people might think that that's really boring, and maybe it is. But it's amazing.
It'll depend on the library, probably, and the listener.
Of course, I'm just with 4 chords repeating over the course of 1.5 2 minutes or even longer, it's amazing how much narrative you can construct on top of that by just detailing and adding and removing and throwing melodic interest, hooks on top of that chord progression. By doing so, you're kind of you're telling a story, and you're removing the listener from the monotony of having to hear these 4 chords over and over and over again. If I was just playing 4 chords over again, there wouldn't be anything more boring than that. But yeah, I mean, there can be an A1 hook, and then there can be an A2 hook, like you're talking about. It can be 2 separate hooks over the same chord progression, and that could be essentially your A and B section, so to speak. You can have like a chorus section, which might be 8 bars, 16 bars, or whatever, and then use those exact same common denominator elements, like the beat and the chord progression and the bass line, but add a totally different angle on top of it. And it's essentially become something completely different. And I think that's, a lot of what you hear in, like rap music or hip hop. And yeah, a lot of my corporate tracks are like that, and they do really well. And yeah.
Okay, devil's advocate time. Hip hop, yes. Rap, yes. Corporate, yes. But maybe not everything. Okay?
Absolutely.
So a country song is not going to get by with that. A ballad is probably not going to get by with that kind of thing. A jazz song could, depending on the jazz song. A chord progression could. It's probably a longer chord progression than 4 chords. It's probably something a little bit more complicated and extended. But although if you look at the standard jazz thing that people play, which is the I got rhythm changes, that's a certain number of changes, and it just repeats ad nauseum. But I think for every other kind of music you're going to write, classical, or if you're writing any kind of stuff, when you listen to Christmas songs, they have A and B sections. And so I think that if you're talking to certain genres, and even hip hop doesn't necessarily only use that. They certainly have B sections. I'm just telling you how hard it is to teach someone to change the chord at a B section.
No doubt. And I wouldn't ever, and like this is why I said at the beginning of the podcast that it is genre dependent. It really is, and that's a good point. And I don't want to come across like I'm advocating for everyone just stick to 4 chords and you'll be okay. I'm only saying it as an option. For certain genres, it works really well, and I have proof of that. But you're absolutely right to say that for a country track, I think that there's certain genres like country, classical, of course, and even like a lot of rock music and pop is you'd get a strong B section in there at least.
Chorus, a verse, and a chorus is usually the way most songs go. And now this is where we differ a little bit, because my focus with my particular sync world is a company called Positive Spin Songs. I, from the beginning, said I'm writing songs. I'm not writing songs for licensing. I'm not doing trailer music. I even rebel against it a little bit in the stock world, just because I don't want to do that personally.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't make as much as you, because you're examining exactly what's making money on Artlist or exactly what's making money on Motion Arrest, and you are patterning what you do after that in order to have success there. And if people are smart, they will do that in whatever genre they are going for. Country, or pop or jazz or classical or whatever, you're going to say, I'm going to take this as a template and I'm going to do the heck out of that so that I can make some income in this because I see what Stevie B is making. So I'm going to go listen to Stevie B's song that had so many downloads and that's the most popular song. And I am going to rip that the heck off and do my own version of that.
Well, also, but like in saying that, like some of it is some of that is beyond just the arrangement and the structure. It's like how it's mixed and that kind of thing too, right? But because then you got to get all that right. You can't just copy it and then not know how to mix it and it come out the same way. So exactly. I think that anyone who has some experience with the taxi briefs, you'll. I mean, we've talked about this before, but you'll see that like with most of the briefs that they're asking for, especially the the instrumental stuff, you see like a lot of like very common language in all of the briefs. Sticking with one motif, for example, like having like one strong A section hook rather than like having like two. Then doing something like a key change is generally.
Lord, there's no key changes. Nobody does key changes in anything.
Yeah, I mean you don't hear that in pop
now.
Music anymore either.
No.
But you certainly wouldn't do something like that if you wanted to write something that was going to be ideal for the licensing world. I don't think
Right.
Also. Excessively long intros. I think that's something that I talk about a lot. Sometimes it works for trailer music, but in most like kind of pop genres, I don't think it's a very good tactic to have like an intro that's much longer than 30 seconds,
or less, much less sometimes. Maybe just
absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of times in corporate music, it's like we've started.
Yeah, well, what I've been doing, and I've copied this from Lester, is I just start with my chorus. I don't even bother with the intros hardly anymore. I just dig right into it in the first like 3 seconds of the track. It just goes right into the chorus, and that's something that's worked really, really well. So
when you say chorus, you mean the 8 bars in their full form.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. If you listen to like my tracks on MA or Motion Array, you'll see that a lot of them are just going right to the chorus. Like there's no intro at all.
and then the verse is a breakdown of that
Essentially,
chorus.
yeah, it's a breakdown. Some different melodic ideas, some new sample energy, some more textural things to kind of throw the energy in a different direction. But eventually, obviously, it comes back to that 8-bar chorus in full form.
Sure.
So. Yeah, what else can I say about what other stuff they usually write? Yeah, I mean the sticking to the one motif thing is real important. I think having like a full separate A section is something that I've heard in some people's tracks, and I'm just like, that doesn't really work because it's basically like two songs in one. You just separate these and create two tracks from it.
I just want to make sure that we make sure that people know, and this may sound like a broken record, that this is not the only way to write, though. Totally. Because a lot of times then you will have people, amateur, mid-amateur, semi-pro, whatever, say, oh, well, if that's what's working, that's all I'm going to write. And then they will get into this rut of only writing 8-bar loops. And then they'll show that to somebody maybe in sync or somebody who wants something for a TV show or something and go, I don't need robotic 8-bar music. I need songs. And this is where we kind of realize that there are other fish in the sea. It's like when I show people like hits from the 70s or hits from now even that have lots of changes in them, and they have a chorus that goes to a different place. As a matter of fact, there's kind of a video I show my students who are trying to figure out how to write a song, a good A-B song, which is the 4 chords that you're talking about that usually start on 1, not always, but usually start on the tonic of the thing. Yeah. And then you can really go to any of the other things. You can go to a 2 minor, a 3 minor, a 4, a 5, or a 6 minor.
Yes.
You can go to any of those things, and you can go to any of those things again. But the 4th chord probably needs to be a 4 or a 5 to lead you back to kind of always be able to go back easily to the 1.
To go back
this,
to the 1.
Again,
exactly. Yeah.
This is generalizing. And then the B part, if you're going to write a chorus, let's say a B part, that should be any note but 1, any chord but the first tonic chord. And then you can do any 3 chords you want, but that should also end on a 4 or 5. That takes you back to the original 8 or 4 bars or 4 chords that you have. So
yeah, totally.
There's a great
One of the members sent me a corporate track for me to review the other day, and he had a brilliant arrangement going on, and an amazing B section. And normally so like we've been talking about here, so many of my corporate tracks are just like a repeated 4 chord, and it's like it's kind of just like it's so rudimentary, but one of my members sent me this beautiful track where it's like the B section started off on like the relative minor chord of the tonic, and it worked so beautifully, and it was like this. It added so much narrative energy to the arrangement. It was so cool. So I think that I totally recommend injecting some creativity into the arrangement like that. That's a really good point to bring up.
Yeah, just thinking in terms of if it's interesting enough, if you've created an 8-bar thing that is interesting enough that you can take it apart, put it back together in new ways, put it back together inside out, whatever you do, that can be really interesting, especially when you're talking about 2-minute songs. We're talking about 1.5 to 2 minute to 2.5 minute pieces that that people want to put behind their videos and things like that. Yeah. I think that works. I think when you start getting into stuff for film or television where they want to use something for a special part of a song, they might want a verse and a chorus or something that's got some changes to it. But so I agree with you that, and you have certainly, if you watch Steve's Motion Array channel, all you have to do is go listen to that and see what he is doing there, because that is the pattern for success. And there are many days, I will tell you this and admit this to you, Steve, that I go, okay, I've got a minute to write a song. I'm going to go over to Motion Array. I'm going to look at what the top things are. And you're up there, Lester's up there, whoever. And I'll just pick one of you guys to listen to or something. I'll say, or somebody else who's doing really well. And I'll say, this is really doing well. Although I'm still not sure how to tell who is doing really super well. It's not really black and white on who is getting the most downloads and all that kind of stuff. But I will try to go find something that I know.
Yeah.
And I'll listen to it and I'll go, no, I'm just not feeling that today. And because it takes a certain amount of energy, it takes a certain amount of thought. You think what we're talking about is super easy. Oh, you're just going to repeat 8 bars over and over and over. Oh, that's easy. Any idiot can do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not exactly true. It takes, if you watch Steve's sessions, he breaks these things down, and the detail on your arrangements is crazy. How much detail you go into bringing each new section in and stuff like that, and transitions and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so.
I think the bass, like or what I would say, like the canvas of the song, like what's at the starting point, like the root of the track is that those ideas are simple, right? But everything else is gets complicated. Like there's a lot of textural detail that I add into the songs. Over very, very simple arrangements, but where it gets complicated is the details, because the devil's always in the details. So I think that's sort of the way I like to work. Getting the basic ideas kind of ready, and the arrangement is always the easy part. For me, it's like the difficulty is like kind of getting all of those details to fall into place and make for a really interesting track. I think, maybe just to summarize, it's like, I feel like I guess what we're saying here is that like an 8-bar loop, like a really strong 8-bar loop can essentially be a track in and of itself. And if it's great, if it's really solid and it's interesting enough, you can make a track with that alone. But you should absolutely not feel as though you should limit yourself to that. And we've seen plenty of evidence to show that there is there's a place for more complicated, more creative arrangements. There's all sorts of things that work in the music licensing space, and of course it all depends on what genre you're working with too. And I think that I wouldn't ever want to try to sound like I'm advocating for just saying, hey, come up with like a really simple dinky loop and then have at her.
Well, or let me say this: if you're going to have to try to listen to this with other people's ears, and it's hard to do because you can be jamming out to your beat that you've made, and you think, oh man, this is dope, as we say in the business, apparently. But or at least Clint does.
Clint says.
But we can be jamming out to that, but we have to realize that 4 times through that 8 beats might get a little long in the tooth. 2 times might get a little long in the tooth, and your ears may get to be bored, and that should be the first rule. If you're bored after two times through the thing, or 1 time through the thing, or whatever, you've got to get your ears stimulated and saying, this is really building. I love that, and then
100%.
And keep introducing new things throughout the tune. If you are using that kind of 8-bar loop thing, add new elements in throughout, redo elements throughout, change things. That's the hardest thing to get students to learn when they come up with a nice A section and a B section, and then they just copy and paste it, A, B, A, B, A, B. I'm like, do me a favor, at least throw me a bone and put a shaker on the second A section, so it's not exactly like the first A section. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And they're just trying to turn in an assignment, so to them, it's not like what we're talking about here. Authors trying to put stuff up on Pond 5, but in some ways it is. You're turning in these things to Pond 5, hoping they're going to make you money just because you crank them out. And I hear people saying, "Oh, I can crank out a song in like 15 minutes." Yeah, you probably could, but is it going to be really good or did you just make a loop and then copy it and paste it a couple times and then take a few things out and call it a day? So that's cool. That's I hear other people doing that, so I can do that.
Well, certainly, like it's something that took you 15 minutes to do in Logic or something like that. It might pass the bar for Pond 5, but it's not going to get anywhere else. It's not going to get anywhere else unless
I might be able to yodel a cappella and get into Pond 5.
Yeah, true. Maybe a really nice like acoustic solo thing. If I could knock that out in 10 minutes, could happen. happen.
Hey, my piano things I often knock out in 10 minutes, and
there you go.
they do well. But they're very melodic and very focused arrangements too, so it's a little different.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I hope this hasn't thoroughly confused everybody, but listen to what is out there.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Just do a lot of listening, because there's a place for all kinds of different arrangements, whether they're simple or complex. So I think that's really the gist of this conversation, is that a lot of different things work. We're not trying to push you in one direction or another, but there is absolutely a place for simplicity, I think, and
but there's no doubt that everybody wants to hear or have a month like you're having on Motion Array, or months like you've had on Motion Array, or success like you've had on Artlist. And so when you find people who are having that success and you want a similar success, you need to go and very much break down what they are doing, and the tiniest details of what they are doing too. And Steve shows you what those details, even in his shorts, not his like shorts, even in his YouTube shorts.
It's not
That's right. You live in Canada. You don't have any. I'm wearing shorts.
Yeah, it's too cold in Canada for shorts, man.
But even on his YouTube shorts and stuff. Oh, and by the way.
That's the one thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna say this is part of my weekly recap. My shorts experiment has been an absolute, utter, and complete failure. I don't know what I did wrong, but my shorts didn't even become a short. And yet it still managed to get like 300 views, but instead people
I was looking at our views throughout the 3 platforms today, and I one of the things I was doing, I guess I didn't finish doing, I was going to write down how many we got on each of the one that we released on the same day. You've since released another one on there, and I've been concentrating on
not YouTube, just on Instagram and TikTok. I didn't put that short up on YouTube. I've only done one short for YouTube, and it was a disaster.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. The teaching disaster, the teaching one. That got 393, where you're sideways and you're talking and showing all.
Yeah, that one. Yeah,
it's a great short. Thanks. And I think it did really good on. I mean, it's got 393 views. That's not bad
for YouTube. It's not terrible or anything like that. But I feel like if it was an actual short, it would have done better. I don't know, maybe
Reels not so much, but Instagram. TikTok, it did 300 or 400, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, Reels didn't do well. It didn't do well.
My
on
Reels
Instagram.
did great, but I was falling into a swimming pool, so everybody probably liked that. And so Reels did the best, and then followed by YouTube Shorts, and then TikTok. So I think if you tally up both of ours, they're about the same what we got across the 3 platforms, releasing on the same day. But it's interesting. We did the whole episode about shorts, and I wasn't really crazy about it, and now I'm using it as a way to build a channel. Not this one. I still am on the fence about how helpful it is. But as we know, since we've made that video, they've now come out with that they're going to be monetizing all these shorts in 2023.
Cool. Oh, good.
And they're going to be allowing. This won't really matter for you or me, but if you get 10 million views on your shorts, it's another way into the partner program.
Holy
the YouTube
cow.
Partner program. But apparently that's not hard to do for some people.
Well, so that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like because the shorts, the algorithms are pushing the shorts a little harder than in some cases. Like, I feel like if my video had actually become a short like it was supposed to, then maybe it would have gotten a bit more reach.
I wonder if you have to upload on your phone.
Dude, well, that's what I'm going to do next time, because I feel like I looked it up, and it said you're fully allowed to upload a short on your desktop. But
I did that too. But if you don't have that little shorts logo on it, it may not be a short for your channel.
I did read something that said that you're supposed to upload something that's a couple seconds less than a minute, because for some reason shorts extends it past a couple seconds. So I think that's what happened, because my video was exactly like 59.5 seconds, and I think it went over a minute, so that's why I didn't.
It may have just thought it was a regular video or something. So,
well,
we live and learn. We live and learn. We live and learn how to write songs. We live and learn how to make shorts, and so we'll keep working on all that. And I'm in the shorts world a lot right now with my Hello Composer site, and it's actually just a faster way to put content out and
Yeah, totally.
teach music lessons that are somewhat boring sometimes when you talk about the repeat sign, when you talk about making a beat. You don't want to make a 5-minute video of how to make a beat. It doesn't take 5 minutes. You can teach that. Logic tips or whatever you're talking about, sometimes you can teach that in a minute and a half. Yeah, I wish they would expand to more like 90 seconds on the shorts.
Yeah, a minute and a half would be
But
cool.
you know what most people want to see there, Steve? They want to see goofy little things that...
I know, they need the entertainment.
Yeah, but we want to do the education, and that takes more than 15 seconds a lot
Yeah.
of times, So
True.
All right.
Cool. Good talk.
Good talk. Good talk. Well, everybody, thanks for listening today.
Yeah.
And we'll cover more interesting stuff, a little bit more philosophical next week about our composing and our songs and what we need to be doing. Similar to this week, but a little less. This week was your theory lessons. Next week we'll get into the life lessons about what we should be focusing on. So
That sounds great.
join us every week.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Take us out, Steve.
Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.
Okay. See everybody.
Bye now.